Okay, I've selected my still life photo. Now, I think we should talk a little bit about local color, examining local color, and then what to do with that information. So, I've chosen my image here. This was a picture I chose that I took about halfway through my still life setup, and I think it's one of the better ones. So I'm going to go with this. Let's start with something really clear. We've already talked about the yellow head object in my studio, so let's take a look at this giant lemon. I'm going to create a new layer here. So, okay, we can clearly see that the sun is coming in from this direction because we've got this shadow here. And we've got some cast shadow here. It's diffused because it was kind of overcast out, but it's still pretty clear that where the shadows are. So let's select the area with the most highlight in it. I think that's right in here. Okay, what am I using? Okay, and just for sake of example, I'm going to put that right here. That's our highlight color. Okay, and then our mid-tone. It looks so much darker than it seems like it would be, right? Let's go with our core shadow. And I don't really see much reflected light on this object, I think because it was so overcast. And maybe a little bit there. That's even darker. So no, really no reflected light. I mean, let's see if we can get some out of here. Yeah, the tiniest bit. Okay, this is important. So I'm also going to grab this. This is also mid-tone, which is part of this area. This was our highlight. This was our mid-tone. These are both mid-tones. This one is from over here. This one's from over here. Okay, and then core shadow, a couple of core shadows, and then maybe a tiny bit of reflected light. Okay, let's use that to examine what's happening here. Okay, I'm going to pull up my color wheel here for you. Apply here. We're going to be able to see how warm or cool our colors are. So this is my highlight. Selecting it, that's where it's at on the color wheel. Okay. You can see the color there. You can see it in this bubble. If I move the bubble to the left, look how it starts to become, more what I would call just a primary yellow, which just gets close to green. So this is warm. The yellow that we're looking at, this yellow, is really warm. If you compare it to that. So let me give you a primary yellow right next to it. So if you look at the difference there, I don't know how clearly you can see that, but this yellow that's actually from our lemon is much more warm than a primary kind of right in the middle yellow. Now let's look at our mid-tone area. This was the first mid-tone I grabbed. The value is darker. Okay, this controls value. The value's darker. But look, we're still in this really warm, orangey space. Again, this is more like a primary yellow. We're over here in this orange, dark orange. So it starts to look like brown. let's take a look at this. It's even more orange. It's not as dark, so it doesn't look as brown, but it's even more orange. Let's take a look here. Okay, our core shadow is still very warm. The values are just darker. Still very warm. Values are dark. Again, they're all very orange. The object that we see as yellow is very orange. Now let's take a look at our cast shadow. There it is. There, okay. So that was part of my cast shadow. And look where we're at. It's blue. It's a very, very dark, almost black blue. So it's our object is leaning towards orange, and the complement of orange is blue. So our cast shadow is blue. Let's try that again on another object. Let's look at the blue object. Let's look at our balloon. Now remember, our light coming in, the light itself is warm. It's going to be kind of yellow. The fact that it's overcast makes the light a little bit more blue than yellow, but that's not so important. So let's get our our highlight. Okay. Our midtone. A real core shadow. And again, because it's overcast, I'm having trouble finding a real reflected light. That's okay. I'm going to grab the cast shadow. Okay. So let's pull up our color wheel and examine these again. I've got this very light blue. It's almost a primary blue. I'm right in between what's heading towards kind of purple, lavender, and this is heading towards more of teal, going towards green. So we're pretty much right in the between. That makes sense. Our mid-tone is going to be a little bit cooler. As we lose the warm light, we're actually the color is getting cooler. Again, we got a little bit cooler, but the value also came down. It's almost the same hue with a different value. Now let's look at our cast shadow. Hue is almost the same. It's just a kind of black blue. So that's a really nice and simple object. That's great.